Hello everybody, welcome back to Fanblade. I have a quick announcement before we get stuck into this week's video. This is a book called 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die by Robert Dimery. Now, there is a podcast based on this book called 1001 Album Complaints, and it is a group of lifelong friends and musicians who get together once a week to randomly select one album from this book. They talk about the music, they talk about the history of the artist, they select a few individual tracks to really pick apart, they do a lot of complaining, they poke a lot of fun, and then ultimately they vote as to whether or not that album belongs on the list. Now, I was fortunate enough to be asked to guest complain on this week's episode, where we had a lot of fun, poking a lot of fun, at Robbie Williams' Life Through a Lens, of all things. It was a fantastic experience getting to hang with those guys for a couple of hours and record a podcast with them, so yes, go have a listen to that, links in the description. Right, upright basses. So here's the state of play. We've got a body that's coming along very nicely indeed, and we've got a neck that is coming along very nicely indeed as well. Now, I want to thank everybody again in the comments section. If I'm unsure of something, you will chime in and you will tell me what you think, and I thank you and I value every single one of your comments. I was thinking of ebonizing the entire neck here. That idea has been roundly shot down. Not a single person thinks that that's a good idea, so I'm not going to do it. But I am going to ebonize the fingerboard. What I'm hoping is that these dots aren't affected and they'll just come up looking nice and white against the black. But yes, everyone wants the grain of the neck to show through to match the grain of the body. I've done a couple of tests, and I took an offcut of the mahogany, and I just put some super glue on there to see what colour it went, and it's gone a very sort of a red colour. I'm not a fan of the contrast between that and the top. I think that's going to look a little bit weird. I want this to look darker, so I got another offcut, and I put some dark stain on there, and I think that looks a lot better. It looks a lot more subtle in terms of making the top stand out. The back is sort of will blend into the background. I can't really have that going, you know, effectively a very sort of red colour. That's just going to look daft. So we'll stay in the back of the body. I can't do it quite yet because there's quite a lot of sanding and sort of clean up around the binding and stuff to do, but we'll get to that in due course. For now, I want to ebonize the neck. Now, long-term viewers will remember the day that I made that. Yeah, this is real rust on the lid of the jar. This is a jar that is in very poor shape, and this is probably its last go-round before I just throw this out and then start a new batch, because this is over a year old now. It's not going to get any stronger, and it's also not going to get any cleaner. And there we go. It's always that third coat that just brings out that deep blackness. That does, of course, raise some grain. You get these little black bits that want to rub off on your fingers. That's all right. Microfiber cloth just tends to break those off, and you are left with a wood surface that is ready for its finish. I'm going to pull the masking tape off, clean up any sort of seepage that may have happened, and then get some super glue on this, and we can see how it's finally going to look. I love it when a plan comes together. Oi. These dots are looking really good. These dots are looking great, and I actually quite like the way that the Quilla looks with the finish, just where the wood itself gets lighter. Yeah, it's coming up a rather nice colour there. I'm kind of glad that I listened to what you lot had to say, so that's good. Now, headstock. Pig box. Now, I've got quite a lot of sanding to do on the inside here. That's going to be a lot of fiddly work with a sanding stick, just getting in there. I'll spend a nice relaxing afternoon just filing away at that. But for now, before I can put the rest of the finish on here, I actually want to put my logo in there. So, off to the pantograph. Now, let's have a little talk about what just happened. Eagle-eyed viewers will have spotted this is the pattern for cutting the logo. This is, of course, 3D printed. I'm getting to grips with my 3D printer. That's a result. This is the first time I've had a 3D printed thing actually go on an instrument. Also, it's the first time I've used UV cured resin on an instrument. It appears to work quite well. I will be investigating that further. I don't know if I'm quite prepared to try and coat an entire body with it. That feels like a dangerous thing to attempt on an instrument that's coming out so well already. Could go wrong, don't want it to go wrong. Gonna finish it with super glue. Now, super glue. Now, there's a lot of new subscribers to the channel, and a lot of them are unfamiliar with my practices regarding super glue. In fact, several comments from people going, "Hey, that's a bit weird." Well, for the regular viewers, you can skip the next 2 minutes because I'm going to give my standard safety speech about super glue. For the rest of you, here we go. Superglue is a cyanoacrylate, meaning that when it cures, it is curing with the moisture in the atmosphere, and it basically hardens to form acrylic plastic. You are basically coating your wood with, you're infusing it with a hard plastic coating. This is good. This is a good thing. What you're getting, though, with that reaction is you are getting a heat and a gas coming out of it. Now, the gas is extremely unpleasant. You want to be wearing a mask. You want to have a fan going. You want the door open. You want to wear gloves, because as you put super glue into the pad to wipe it on, there's an exothermic reaction happening in that pad, and that is going to get very, very hot. And occasionally, if atmospheric conditions are not quite right, it'll get very hot very fast, and that's the moment where you whip your glove off, because you do not want it sticking to your hand. The pad will stick to the glove. It will rip holes in the glove. That's why you have a large supply of gloves. You do not take risks with this stuff. It breaks the conventional wisdom that you can have fast and cheap and good, but you can only ever have two at a time. Well, superglue finishes are fast, they are cheap, and they are good. They break that logic, but the trade-off is that they are a toxic mess. So be safe, go slow, thin coats, and yes, lots and lots of 600 grit sandpaper to just keep everything level as you go. Atmospheric conditions have to be absolutely perfect, and I have worked out through trial and error. In fact, I've marked it over there. 17 degrees Celsius is absolutely perfect, and right now the temperature in this garage is 17 degrees Celsius. So I am going to go to town. Got my gloves, got my mask is over there. I will grab that in a second. Fan, door, goggles, and yes, you add a coat, by the time you finish that one, this one will be dry, you sand it back, then you sand that one back, you go back and forth, and you can get a lot of glue on in a very short amount of time. So, let's go. Alright, that's a couple of coats, both neck and body. I'll probably give it 20 minutes to dry thoroughly, then I'll flip the neck over and do a couple of coats on the fingerboard, and then a couple more on the body as well. You gotta stop every now and then and just make sure that the base coat is completely cured before you add too much, because if you come in with some wet superglue over some partially cured superglue, you can actually rip a hole in it. That's not good. Also, once you take the mask off, you realise how much it stinks. I'll be back in a bit. So it's been a couple of days. It's all going according to plan. I've just been coming in here every couple of hours and just adding a few more coats. The grain is getting filled in. We're not quite finished yet. You can see on the neck how the grain is still showing through. It's not quite filled in, but we are getting there. Same with the body. On the dark areas where the wire brush ripped out quite a lot, there's quite a lot to fill in. It is getting filled in, but we're not quite there. However, there is enough on there that we can start doing other things with this without damaging it. Also, just as a side note, I'm really impressed with the chatoyance of this top, because as you rotate it, everything changes colour. There's quite a lot of sort of shimmery goodness going on, which I'm very happy about. Right, spike. This is the piece of the mic stand that I'm going to be using for the spike. It is easily long enough to get any height that I need out of it, but it's going to need some modifications. All of these parts are plastic, and I think they're either glued or maybe even moulded on there. I cannot unscrew it, so there's probably going to be some cutting involved. I'm also going to have to cut this bracket off, so that this particular piece here, that little tube, is going to get shoved right up the guts of the base, so that the rest of this can just sort of slide in there and lock into place. Probably with a bigger screw than that. I will figure that out once I've got this apart, because yeah, this is going to be a bit of a massacre, but bear with me. Never let it be said that I, in my strive for professionalism, am not also prepared to just jank stuff together. That looks awful, but don't worry, it's going to be hidden. I've measured that out to, I think I got 21 millimeters. When I measured it, when it was actually still in its original form, it was 20. So there's a split here. This is obviously designed to be a spring fit of some sort. So I'm going to drill a 20 millimeter hole, and it's going to be 102 millimeters deep. So yeah, this is going to be interesting. That is an electric upright bass body mounted on a spike. It's a little bit wobbly. We will definitely need some sort of spacer in there, and obviously some sort of locking nut or two just to secure that all in place. It's got gravity on its side at the moment, but of course if I were to pick it up to shift it around, that's just going to happen. So we will find a solution for that in due course. Right now, I'm wondering if it's time to put the neck on. Yes. that's on there now. That is a neck joint, and yes, I can even lift up that massive body with nothing actually holding that in there except friction. That's a tight fit. I had real trouble carving out that mahogany. The grain is very changeable, and I had a lot of tear out. Not quite enough to actually destroy the thing, but yeah, it's not pretty in that neck pocket. So let's just never speak of that again. The neck's on. It's good. It's in exactly the right place as well. When I'm playing, I want enough room for my thumb under there. Just about. That's about perfect. The angle is nice. It is dead centered. I'm very happy. I think now I need to spend a bit of time cleaning up these edges and staining and sealing the back. Well, that may have taken no time at all for you guys, but that took nearly 2 hours. Sanding's no fun. Anyway, here we are. It is hand sanded to 180. It is ready for its finish, except there's one more thing to do, because there always is one more thing to do. There is an issue with the binding. When I put stain on this wood, some of it's going to get on the binding as well. Now, that's not a problem in and of itself, but when I come to put superglue over the top of that, some of that stain is going to lift and it's going to get mixed in with the glue, and at some point I want to be able to blend the glue finish onto the top, and I don't want any of that stain getting on the top. If some stain gets on there, that's not a problem. I can clean it off with mineral spirits, but if it's mixed with glue at the same time, then I've got a real problem. So what I'm going to do is mask off the binding before staining, and that will just help to prevent that issue. Normally you wouldn't even put binding on until the stain has gone on, especially if it's cream binding that can absorb the stain, and then you've got like proper problems. So you do all the staining, let all that cure, then you would put the binding on afterwards. But for now, yes, bit of masking tape, and then yeah, we'll get this thing down to its final colour. And there is basically a finished body. For those who wanted to see the back of the neck and the back of the body be the same colour, well, they're not quite, but you know, it's close enough. This is going to require a lot more layers of glue. I have run out, nearly. I'm going to have to go get some more. The neck and fingerboard also are going to need quite a bit more work, but of course that is not something I will burden you lot with. By the time we come back next week, this will all be ready for assembly, and then we can start thinking about pickups and string anchoring mechanisms and things like that. So yes, I'll get this finished, and the next time you see it, it'll be shiny and beautiful. So make sure you come back and see that next week. So thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for subscribing, and I'll see you later. Cheers.